Welcome to the EMEA Recruitment Podcast in partnership with international medical charity Operation Smile. By raising vital funds and awareness for this cause, we're hoping to create 100 new smiles. Find out more at emearecruitment.com/operation-smile. In this episode, we're joined by Marco Dirren, CFO at Implenia in Switzerland. Following a successful finance career, Marco explains why we must all learn to listen.
So hello everybody, welcome to the next episode of the EMEA Recruitment Podcast in partnership with our good friends over at Operation Smile. As Rose has mentioned, we're delighted to welcome Marco Dirren onto the podcast today. So hopefully you can still hear me okay, Marco?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Perfect. So as mentioned there, delighted to have you on the show today. How's everything been for you in the last 2.5 years? Because I know it's been a bit of a challenge for everybody over this period in our home and work lives. So firstly, I hope you're in good health and how's everything been for you?
Yeah, I'm personally in good health, and the last 2.5 years have been quite challenging, not only because of COVID and as well the latest, developments in Eastern Europe. But Implenia itself had to go through a quite a transformation over those 2.5 years. So it brought all together. And if you would plan it, you would not do it all at the same time, but we had to. So it was a challenging time. It was a good time as well. I think everybody of us, the whole management team and employees of Implenia, learned quite a lot on how to go through such challenges. Not only, as I said, COVID and the developments in Eastern Europe, but so you can't learn that by reading a textbook. You need to experience that, and that was quite a challenging time.
No, I think you mentioned there. You found it challenging. It's been generally a good time for the business with the transformation that has been happening over that time, and ultimately you've learned a lot about maybe yourself and your colleagues have learned a lot about themselves over this period. I mean, on that point, it's something that we do find a lot of guests on the podcast really highlight, that they're always looking to learn and develop in a range of different areas. So I suppose if you do now look back at the whole COVID period in retrospect, what do you think is the biggest thing that you've learned about yourself?
Hard to answer. I think it's acting as a team and trying to stay calm, mentally calm, in a sense that you don't run into a burnout. I think it's really deploying the full brain power of a team is quite important. Usually, what I learned is that once you get into a situation where you have a lot of pressure, you try to find a solution for that situation. And usually you do that on your own. So I think it's best if you employ the brain power of your team, the management team, your own direct reports, or even cross-functional teams, in order to find the best solutions. So timing certainly is an issue, but sometimes you have that small time slot, and then you should make use of that. And then on the other hand side is actually trying to find a good balance between professional and private life. Although professional life probably the business life probably takes over a bit more time than usual. But still to be resilient, you need to have evolve, where you can actually let go and whether it be family, sports, or whatever. I think in order to have a clear head, you need to have that small amount of time where you can actually be on your own and reflect as well.
And I think within that answer, there's quite a few things that I might pick up on a little bit later in terms of the team and being resilient and how you tended to lead people over your career. But I mean, as Rose mentioned at the start, you've had a fantastic career so far, Marco, and now you find yourself in the position of CFO at a great business in Implenia. So I thought the first question really to ask you would be, what does it feel like to be in this position now? Because as you mentioned already, that you've been through a lot in your career, and especially recently as well, and working with some great people, and had to build up a very strong mindset. So I was just wondering what it really feels like to be in this position at the moment.
I think it feels like a lot of things. I think first of all, one would need to be aware of the responsibility he has in such an executive role and towards internal and external stakeholders, and as well all employees. But it feels challenging, exciting as well. Sometimes you feel happy, sometimes you're frustrated. And it's almost like in sports, where if you're in the zone and everything falls right into the right place, then everything is fine and you experience a lot of positive emotions. But then on the other hand side, if things are not that great, you're getting all the other sorts of emotions too. And that's probably looking back now where we think we've managed to go through that transformation, and having had difficult market situations on top of that. I think it's you're proud as well, on what you have managed. And as I said, if you would try to plan a transformation, you would give yourself probably a bit more time, but we haven't had that time. So we had to have all balls right up in the air at the same time, trying not to let down one. And that was quite a challenge from the whole team. And looking back now, I'm happy we've managed it. Sometimes we were a bit afraid of whether and that's one emotion too, how you feel. Sometimes you're a bit afraid of whether you have too much pressure on the organization. And we had fluctuation based on pressure, and that's probably not the best thing, but you need to be aware that not all people handle pressure the same way, and that's part of the job, being an executive manager, to be aware of soft factors as well, not only the hard factors.
It's interesting because you mentioned dealing with pressure in the team and in the business, and I know that some of our shared connections have actually described you as an unflappable CFO who gets things done. So what you're saying would also be in line with what your former team members are saying about you as well, which is great. I hope for you to hear as well that you're not just saying these things; you're actually actioning the way you think as well. And I just wondered, really, over the years of success that you've had, what you've felt has been the key to the success. I mean, is it this unflappable approach? I mean, very resilient, as you mentioned earlier, or anything else you think is important to highlight?
Yeah, I think emotional stability, as professionals would call it, helps a lot. But on the other hand side, I mean, emotional stability means that whenever you're in a crisis mode, you're not dragged down. So you stay on top of where you are. You have a clear mind, and I think you're able to motivate the team to stay with you. On the other hand side, if you achieve great things, emotional stability means that you're not a party killer, so you're not going out and do a big party. So it's a bit both, but emotional stability certainly helps. And to me, what helped me a lot is I've always gathered myself with mind-diverse teams, and that helps to get all angles of a problem at the table, and then you take a good decision. So I think those two factors have been a bit the base of my career. Joined with strong values in terms of honesty, loyalty, and all that kind of stuff. But leading the transformation probably is emotional stability and mind-diverse teams.
I mean, do you feel the emotional stability is, as you say, it's possible because of the people and the teams you have around you, or is it something you've always had that is in your bloodline, maybe that your parents have passed down?
Yeah, I'm a bit gifted with that. That's gifted. I mean, if you're asking somebody who is very emotional, they would probably tell you that it's not a gift. in certain circumstances. But overall, I think I'm gifted with that. So I always had that, and thankfully, I didn't lose it over time.
Mm-hmm. That's good. It's a very strong skill to have, I think, for yourself, but also I think for any people that either report directly or indirectly to you, because it's so easy to get caught up in situations and let people see that you're obviously affected by it. But if the people who are reporting to you see a calm, level-headed leader, then the calmness then stems out across the organization as well.
Yeah, I had, we've just finished our financial year end of February, and that process wasn't that easy, because 1 year after you announced the big write-downs and the transformation. So the year end probably is not that easy. So I had my group accountant, which came to me and said, almost in tears, she just joined like half a year before, and said, it's getting a lot now, and we have time pressure, and 10 minutes later she told me that incredibly how calm I am, and that helped her, to actually get up on speed again. And so I think it's sometimes it's really a gift, it helps people to see the light, the lighthouse, and not being distracted by smaller side effects.
I know, it's really, really interesting and great to see. I mean, did you think that within this topic, because I'm thinking, people who are typically very good in this area, they're also very good listeners, I would say, and the listening skill is another one that's is often forgotten when it comes to great managers or a key characteristic in people's background that they really highlight. So would you say that listening skills have been important to you, and if they have, is the way you've developed them over the years?
Yes, absolutely. Because having a strong character obviously is one piece or one element to go to where I am right now. Means that sometimes you speak first instead of listening and then speak last. And I've learned it over the years. When I'm looking back, when I was in my mid-20s, mid-30s, I was always trying to get my thinking across or my ideas across. And therefore, I was speaking quite a lot first instead of last. And then we did some development on the personality, because we thought it's the talent is there, but that's probably not a good, it's not that good if you're always first. So we worked on that, and I was experiencing actually more positive than negative sides by speaking last. Asking a team and just open question, asking a teams or listening to opinions to colleagues. By listening, active listening, you gather new aspects of a problem or solution. And then you can combine that with your own idea. And probably in the end, you get the best solution instead of your solution. And that's what I meant when I said, and I learned it over the years. I wasn't that way when I was in my mid-20s or mid-30s, probably. And that's what I meant when I said I'm forming diverse, high-performing teams. It's like, you need to hear them out and then try to find the best solution, even if it's not your solution, but the best solution for the company. And that's something I've learned over the years.
Hi everybody, it's Paul Thomas here. I hope that you're well and you're enjoying the podcast so far. Thank you once again for your continued support listening to the podcast. I just wanted to break into the recording to talk to you about a really exciting partnership that EMEA Recruitment has along with Operation Smile. And as founder of EMEA Recruitment, it's an honour and a privilege to announce this partnership. Personally, I was born with a cleft lip and palate, so the mission of Operation Smile is something that I have a strong personal connection with. It's not an understatement to say that the dentists and surgeons that helped me were life changers. It's not only about the actual operations that take place, the support and care post and pre-operation are beyond value, and from personal experience I can only say that I'd not be the confident, happy person I am today without this support. I want to help children experience the support and care and skill that I experienced on my journey, and hope that we can do this along with Operation Smile. Every 3 minutes, a child is born with a cleft lip or cleft palate, and the mission of Operation Smile is to provide help and support to these children through providing 6,000 medical volunteers across 80 countries who are dedicated to help these children with facial conditions, most commonly cleft lip and cleft palate. More than 200,000 children are born with a cleft every year, and they are often unable to speak, eat, socialise or even smile. However, it can take as little as 45 minutes and cost just €180 or 182 francs for Operation Smile to provide a child with life-changing surgery. Now, in partnership with Operation Smile, EMEA Recruitment is raising valuable funds and aiming to create 100 new smiles to support the organisation to provide free surgeries for children and young adults all over the world. Please help us by donating through the link in the bio or get in touch to see how your company can help get involved too. For the moment, I'll leave you to carry on listening to the rest of the podcast, but if there's anything I can do in terms of answering any questions or finding out how you can help and support EMEA Recruitment and Operation Smile, then please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Thank you once again and enjoy the rest of the podcast.
And I think it's interesting because I personally, I've actually been doing quite a lot of reading and research into this approach over the last few years. And I think it's something that's maybe easy to say, but it's very difficult to do because you have to be happy with silence in a call or in a meeting and be comfortable with that period of time, knowing that everybody else is also feeling probably pretty uncomfortable with the silence and that somebody eventually is going to break, but you just got to make sure that it's not you, because then you get something from the person who's breaking the silence. It's quite it does use a lot of energy. I think the active listening, it's not easy, but also it's a lot of energy that goes into it. Really, the more than what you think, I guess.
The energy is listening, but as well, reflecting. Then it's just listening doesn't mean that you reflect. So active listening means that you need to reflect on the ideas which are brought to you, and then working on yourself, which costs a lot of energy as well over the years. To actually find the best solution for the problem at hand, and not just pushing through your idea. And people working closely with me, we've actually split the phase into two phases. One is the creative and phase where everybody speaks up, and no matter how dumb the idea might look like, everybody speaks up. And then you're actually going into that decision-making process. But once you've decided, and that's what I said before, based on values, the leadership based on values, I'm asking people to be loyal because I'm loyal to them too. If we as a group think that that's the best solution, we stand behind that solution loyally, even if it's not your solution at the beginning. Usually it's none of the solutions which were at the table at the beginning, because you form a new solution. And as a person, I don't like to speak about problems. I'm like so explain the problem 5-10 minutes, but then flipping and finding solutions. So I think that's where you can make a huge impact with a team, and which is often probably untapped.
And I think we talked a bit about your approach to management. We talked about the characteristics you bring to the table, what you look for in the team, and the benefits of having a great group of people around you. And I guess we can't really have an interview on a recruitment podcast without talking a bit about people and recruitment. So, I mean, from your experience, I mean, what have you found have been the key steps to take in order to have a really efficient recruitment process that has brought in the people that fits your style and culture?
I think it's investing time at the beginning of the process. That sounds quite obvious, and usually you don't do it. First of all, if people leave, and if that's the reason you're recruiting, that gives you always the chance or the opportunity to think about the current state and whether you like to change it for a potential better setup. I think that's very important. But then once you've decided on what to do, I think the job specs are quite essential. Sometimes when I read the requirements of candidates, I feel like reading a wish list, and 30 years of experience in leadership, 5 languages, and and 2 master degrees, and I don't know. So I think one would need to be very specific about requirements and think about what's important rather than what would be great to have. I did that experience a year ago. When I was recruiting a country finance head, I got CVs from all sorts of CFOs. And then I said, no, I'm not looking for a CFO. I'm looking for a country finance head, because that's our term of the head of accounting Switzerland. So we've changed the ad to head of accounting Switzerland, and then we got the right CVs. So investing in that and trying to match the market instead of the internal market. So, and then you need to decide on whether you go on your own or not. Working with a recruiter will certainly help you to tap into a broader pool of people as well, getting probably the right people on the team. But the partner needs to understand your company and needs to understand your team, your culture, and then I think it's much better for important roles actually to get the help from a recruiter. I mean, recruiters are specialists in what they do. Finance guys are specialists in finance. So you wouldn't go to a garage or a banker to do your teeth. Actually, you go to the right people, and so I do with very important vacancies when it comes to refilling them.
No, I mean, I think you're right. You mentioned there the cultural fits, the fits with yourself as a person, and is vital. And what you often find is that the person who ends up being offered the job, it is very rare that they're the best one on paper. It's normally the person who's got that cultural fit or has synergies with the person or the team who they're going to be working with on a day-to-day basis. And I think even more so now, I would say, I think companies are a lot more aware of having a really strong set of values and ethics and diversity and inclusion policies and so on. Whereas I think maybe 5 or 6 years ago that it wasn't the case as in that extreme. And I think it really, those two things are really the essential side of finding the right people for a team as well. And you mentioned a bit earlier about how you start with a recruitment process. So being very specific about what you're looking for and identifying what is important to you and trying to have the structure in the process. And I wondered, is that how you also structure your day, your personal day as well? Because I mean, obviously, one of the things as you get more senior, there's clearly more things on your plate, and we tend to find obviously that successful people are very good at prioritizing and structuring their day and being good at saying no to things, I guess, that can interrupt that. So is that the way you approach your planning of your day, week and month, would you say?
Yeah, I think prioritizing, as you mentioned, is probably one of the key, is the key actually to manage your day. I think everybody has just the 24 hours, and some of it you need to sleep to recover. To be resilient, actually, sleep is quite a good method to be resilient. So being an executive means as well that you have a lot of your agenda is set from the beginning of the year. We're talking about, regular one-to-ones with your direct reports, executive meetings, board meetings, investment committee meetings, monthly performance reviews in finance, obviously, closing reviews and planning meetings, roadshows, analyst meetings, and all that kind of stuff. So all that is set. So the big stones are set in your agenda at the beginning of the year. But then that means, but for the rest of your time, for the remaining of your time, you need to be available for your organization. That includes, early mornings, late evenings, weekends, sometimes holidays, I always tried to learn from my managers. And one manager, actually, he always had only 3 very important topics on his list. And every time I wanted to talk to him about something else, he was not interested in. And at the beginning, it was very frustrating for me because I thought, damn it, it's a problem I have and I need to have a solution. But then on the other hand side, reflecting it, I thought those 3 topics never stayed long on his agenda because they were done, and focusing and today you probably would see like deep work and whatever have you, modern words, but it's focusing and prioritizing. It's probably the key to be efficient and effective.
No, and I think it's very true. I mean, I like that idea of having those 3 priorities on your list, and then not trying as much as you can not to deviate from those, and just getting those done and moving on to the next 3 important things. But obviously, as everyone is aware, it's not often as easy as that to do, and especially these days with the pull that social media and the various different technologies have on our daily lives. So, I mean, is there a way that you work to try to make sure you are getting the priorities done? I mean, are you very strict with your emails, strict with social media and so on, or is it any advice on that side, really?
Yeah, if you would ask me, if you would ask my assistant for my emails, she would probably not give you the same answer as I do. But I try to touch emails once, and then decide on what to do. I think it's really being focused and getting the things done, not as a system, but being focused on where you are. This is obviously only if you can plan your day. If there is a crisis, you need to switch, and you need to be adaptive and agile. I think the best method I've learned, when I joined Implenia and I wanted to change things, people always told me that they are absorbed with daily business. And then I formed a team a project team, and I said that team. That team is not allowed to do any day-to-day business. They are just working on projects, meaning pushing through initiatives, changing. And once it's ready to actually put into operations, they hand it over to the day-to-day team. And separating projects and transformation or whatever you like to change from the day-to-day business helps in order to be more effective on that. It needs to be handed over, and things like that. You need to have the knowledge to do that. But overall, I think it's more effective because, I mean, probably from your own experience, if you have a lot to do on your day-to-day business and you have a project to do or a task to do, it always ends last because the day-to-day business is more important. So I've tried to, whenever possible, I've tried to split day-to-day business from change and project.
No, and I think that's really, really useful advice as well. And I think, you mentioned earlier on, you have an assistant as well. And I've got to say, I don't know if you've ever read, there's a book called The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferris, but I read that about 3 or 4 years ago now and decided to initially to hire a virtual assistant. And I've got to say, it's one of the best decisions I think I've ever made, because you just don't realize how much time you spend on doing things that are really quite mundane and that really anybody could do. And I think if you have that kind of mindset to initially jump in and have an assistant or even a virtual PA, then I think the difference it can make to focusing on these things, as you mentioned, it's huge, because I think it can be done without an assistant, but it's a lot harder because you just have to, you have to really be ultra strong in managing these things to get them done, I think.
So I think that for our week, yes, I've read the book, and there are learnings you can take out of that book. 4 hours is probably not realistic, depending on in what company you're working. I mean, if you're self-employed and you do your own business, probably fine. But I think you're right. That's hugely underestimated. Even strategic assistants, or or the assistant. It helps to get so much out of your way that you can focus on what you need to do. But then you need to be disciplined. That extra time doesn't mean that you can, be on social media and, probably spend time elsewhere. But it's more like being focused then on what really matters. And that's why that list of priorities I mentioned before is probably that important.
No, that's it. I think if anyone goes down that route, an assistant or a PA is seen as an investment, so then obviously you use your time that you would be doing checking emails or sorting your diary to get involved in a report or a plan or a roadshow. It's those types of things that faster, then you're able to do more of, because you're not spending your time on the lower priority things. And I think, and I guess linked to this, I mean, you talked about the challenges that you've had really at the start. You mentioned last 2.5 years of transformation, and then we talked about the management challenges, team recruitment challenges, and so on. And but you also mentioned earlier on that that's what excites you about the finance role generally, that it is challenging, and I guess that's had a major impact in why you've been successful in your career, because you enjoy it and you're excited by the challenges it brings. So I thought I'd just ask you really what challenges you see in the near or medium term future as a CFO.
I think there are, generally speaking, as a CFO role, I think it's really digitalization, artificial intelligence, robotics, and all that kind of stuff, where you can make better use of your data. We are sitting on a lot of data and not really using them in terms of, not just looking back, but looking forward too. And I think digitalization itself is a huge game changer in finance in the future. If you look at the organizations and how long they do actually plan for a budget or for a midterm plan, and then look what they achieve, most of that time is wasted because, circumstances change and markets change, and we had COVID. Okay, that's something which is very extraordinary, but, that changes. So having data available who actually make use of that data, which is actually being part of your decision-making process, that's probably a challenge of most CFOs. And CFOs are usually, let's say, older than 40. I probably call it that way. Not the youngest one, and then letting go the old method and changing for a new method, or trying at least to have that flexibility in your head actually is I think will be quite a challenge. And then young people do not actually fit into that standard, culture probably, and then being adaptive to that in order to attract and to retain talents is certainly a challenge overall as a CFO. Looking to Implenia, I think the challenge we've had is going through that transformation phase, and we think we've done that. There are certain loose ends, but we will finish them off later this year. But then it's focus on the core performance and how to achieve the midterm target. And that's why you need to have that reflection time and as well focusing in order to achieve that. And so it's core performance, how to achieve the midterm targets, and as well maintain a healthy balance sheet, at least for a CFO, having enough cash, but then having a good equity ratio, leveraging the company in the best possible way. So I think that these are the core foundations now on where we need to focus on for the next 12 to 24 months, and then slowly start to grow again in a sense digestible, not as we did in 10 years ago. I wasn't part of the company at that time, but still it was too much growth in a too short time and not very, very well integrated. So that's our strategic challenge now.
No, and then you mentioned the BI and data side of things, and no doubt it is going to be a huge part of our lives at work and at home for the future. And I think it's linked to what you've mentioned also, that if you invest in this and get the most out of it, then it will free up time to do other important things. I mean, we know Microsoft do a large amount of their forecasting now using BI and AI. And when I was speaking to someone there recently, he was saying the amount of time he now has to be an efficient and effective business partner, because that time is now free, is really beneficial. But I was wondering, actually, linking BI and data to something else we talked about today about people. Do you feel there could be a danger that people are going to be analysed overly on things like data in the future, and less on actually what they bring to the team in terms of culture and team fit?
Yeah, there is a risk, obviously, but no matter what expertise you have, and I'm talking about these cross-functional or mind-diverse people, no matter what your area of expertise is, you need to fit the culture of a company, or at least there need to be the potential fit for the culture. otherwise, I don't think no matter what tools and processes you have in place, there is always the waste of energy internally. And being efficient means that you actually reduce waste. And internal energy means that you're producing waste. So I think yes, we need to have different profiles, and yes, people need to be adaptive to that and agile in a mind diverse aspect. So therefore, it's a risk that you actually recruit the old-fashioned way, put it that way, and then you end up not being at the forefront of technology and your efficiency. So it's that trade-off probably you need to do. Yes, could be a risk. You're right.
No, it's just something that I think is interesting, because you've just mentioned there, the different ways of recruiting these days. I mean, there's a lot of companies really using technology to bring different ways of hiring individuals and different ways of approaching the whole process. But I still personally, at the moment at least, think you can't be two people sitting in a room and just saying, okay, do you like each other? Can you do the job? And if those two things click and there's a fit there for the team and the culture, then most of the time it's going to work well. But we'll see how these things change in the next 5 to 10 years. And then I guess the last question that I had for you is a bit of a different one, actually. Obviously throughout the conversation, we talked about your approach being very calm and collective, always being really solid and consistent with the team. But I'm having a structured day and clear priorities. But I guess, not every day can be like that, unfortunately, probably, and I was just wondering what you do when you have a really bad day. You get to sort of 5, 6 o'clock and think, oh my God, I just want to go and punch a wall or do something. I mean, is there anything you particularly do to get rid of your frustrations when you have a bad day?
So first of all, as I said, I'm emotionally that stable that I don't experience a lot of frustration, but still, if there are precious times and and things do not go very well, I'm doing a lot of sports, so I go out for a run regularly. So this morning at 5 o'clock I was out for a run, and that helps me actually to not. I don't think about things when I'm running, but it's like my time. It's really me time, and it's psychohygienic, I would call it probably best. To be out there for an hour and just be on your own. So that's probably my thing, being outdoors, no matter what to do, whether it's running, whether it's just walking, and being on your own a bit to reflect and to recover.
No, it makes sense because especially these days, there's not many gaps in between calls and videos in the diary, so you don't, in the normal day, you don't get much time to have any space to think about things. And I mean, is that morning run, is that something that is almost a routine for you, or is it a one-off this morning, or is it a normal 5 a.m.?
That's routine. I thought whenever possible, I'm trying to do like 5 times a week sports. Doesn't need to be running all the time. Could be strength or flexibility or whatever. Sometimes I'm doing sports with my wife, sometimes on my own, and 80% is on my own. But that's becoming a routine, and I do plan it actually in my agenda, my calendar. Otherwise, it wouldn't fit in. My days usually starts at around 6:30 or 7 o'clock in the morning, and usually they end at earliest at 7 o'clock in the evening, and then so you need to plan your days, and that's how I do it. Setting the agenda. That's bits and pieces where my assistant is not allowed to book into any. At 5 o'clock in the morning, people are not that motivated.
No, that's it. That's one bit you should be able to get those things in. I was wondering because a few years ago, I went through a phase of doing something similar to that myself. But the challenge personally I found with it, and I know a lot of other people who failed on that, so the early morning routine, is that you have to go to bed very early. Otherwise, then you if you don't get much sleep, the last thing you want to do when the alarm goes off is get your trainers on. So typically you have you're quite structured in the evenings as well in terms of your sleep time and so on as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So usually at 9 o'clock in the evening, I'm doing the last walk with my dog, and then at 9:30 latest, I'm out of office, out of everything, and sleep.
No, that's really it's great to hear. You know, I mean, I know there's so many things written about the early morning exercise routine. You know, I think you mentioned it yourself. It's not, I mean, obviously you get the health benefits of it, but it's also, I think, the mental health you get from that, and you know, starting your day off on the right way then sets the tone for the rest of the day. Because you know how it is, if you decide that you're going to do the gym or go for a run at 6-7 at night, over the course of the day your battery runs down, and you know things can happen in the day to make you think, actually, I'm not going to bother with doing that today, I'll do it tomorrow. But if you get it done first thing, it's done, and it starts the day right, really. Or
you're simply too tired after a hard day. You know, sometimes you're just wanting to lie on the couch and that's it. So early in the morning, to me, it's best. That's how I see it for myself. No, well, I mean, it's been amazing to speak to you today, Marco. I find it really inspiring. I mean, I think both in terms of your approach in the job, but also what you do outside of work. I mean, there's so many things that I hear from you that I've read in all these books over the years, and think you're almost a walking model, basically, for what people are advising to do. And it's just great to see you've got that consistency there, and you're putting all this into action, and I mean, you benefit from it, your family does, and the team and business are as well, you know. So it's a really inspirational conversation. I know the network will take a lot from it as well. And I mean, just in terms of the network, I mean, if any of the people listening in want to reach out to you, what's the easiest way they can do that, Marco? I think the easiest way these days is LinkedIn, but not just, you know, sending me a connection request, because usually if I don't know the person, I just decline. But if people actually put the extra effort in and writing me why they want to connect with me, I usually accept.
No, and I think that's a good point to make. I mean, I think, especially these days, LinkedIn is very easy just to send one click of a button, but actually, to put something in there is going to make it stand out. So that makes 100% sense as well. So I guess all that's left to say is a huge thank you, Marco. I really appreciate your time today. Take a lot from it, and wish you the best of success with the rest of the year and your 5 a.m. runs, really.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Paul. It was a pleasure to be part of the podcast.
Lovely. Good to speak to you. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast episode. If you'd like to reach out to Paul or myself, please feel free to send a connection through on LinkedIn. And if you'd like to listen to previous episodes of the podcast, you can find them all at our website, www.emearecruitment.eu.